George Lucas is a name everyone knows when it comes to amazing movies and cool new ways to make films. He's the guy who created the Star Wars movies, and we should really thank him for that. And he changed how we watch movies forever. But behind all those space battles and cool characters, there were real fights happening, especially with some of the actors who helped bring his ideas to life. This isn't just rumors and gossip. It's a really interesting look at how creative people sometimes don't get along. Big egos, and working together to make one of Hollywood's biggest movie series. Let's jump right in. George Lucas isn't just some movie director. He's the smart guy who created a whole galaxy far, far away that millions of fans love. Born in 1944, Lucas was a kid who loved cars, adventure stories, and old movies. Sure, American Graffiti was his first big hit movie, but it was Star Wars that made him a Hollywood legend. But behind all that success was a guy whose need to make everything perfect and love of technology sometimes made working with him hard. Lucas was all about pushing boundaries, creating new special effects, sound design, and even figuring out how movies get sold to theaters. But here's the problem. He focused mostly on the big picture and the technology, not so much on the actors themselves. He wasn't the kind of director who helps actors with their performances with patience and care. Instead, he was totally focused on making his vision come to life exactly as he imagined it. Running a huge sci-fi movie series like Star Wars meant Lucas had to be in control, from detailed drawings of scenes to exact technical work. There wasn't much room for actors to make things up or change from the script. For some people, this worked just fine. For others, it felt cold and limiting. What happens when a visionary's need to control everything crashes into the egos, feelings, and expectations of the actors bringing his world to life? This mix of big dreams and tight control led to some interesting, and sometimes tense, relationships with the actors. The story behind the scenes isn't just about special effects and blockbuster success. It's about creative fights and personalities trying to find their place in a galaxy-sized project. And that's exactly what we're going to explore. When people think of Darth Vader, they usually picture the famous black helmet, the scary mechanical breathing, and that tall, almost unstoppable presence on screen. But the man who actually wore that costume? That was David Prowse, a former bodybuilder and weightlifter turned actor who brought Vader's scary physical presence to life. Yet even though he contributed so much to one of cinema's most legendary bad guys, Prowse's relationship with George Lucas was anything but smooth. David Prowse was a huge man, standing over 6 feet tall with a powerful build from years of weightlifting and bodybuilding. When Lucas and the filmmakers were choosing someone to play Darth Vader, they needed someone who could physically dominate a scene without needing to talk or show facial expressions. Prowse was perfect for the job. His big frame and careful movements gave Vader that unforgettable shape, one that scared audiences long before Vader spoke a single word. But here's where the story gets complicated. While Prowse provided Vader's physical presence, his voice was never used. Instead, Lucas chose James Earl Jones to deliver Vader's famous, deep, commanding voice. This decision, while understandable from a director's point of view, created a strange and lasting tension. For Prowse, the voice is a huge part of an actor's connection to their character, and to be physically present but have his voice replaced made him feel invisible in an important way. This split between body and voice led to more than just hurt feelings. It created frustration and feeling left out. Prowse wasn't just pushed aside on screen, he felt pushed aside off screen too. The man who literally wore the armor and helmet was never fully recognized as Darth Vader by the movie series or its fans. Instead, Vader became a mix. Prowse's body, Jones's voice, and sometimes a stuntman's movements. As filming continued, Prowse began to feel the pain of these creative decisions. Reports say that Lucas and the production team didn't always communicate clearly with him, leading to confusion and disappointment. Prowse claimed that he wasn't told about the voice replacement until after filming was done. Moreover, Prowse's attempts to keep major plot points secret, like Vader being Luke Skywalker's father, put him at odds with Lucas's team when he shared spoilers, whether on purpose or by accident. The problems from this strained relationship lasted a long time. In 2010, Lucasfilm reportedly banned Prowse from participating in official Star Wars fan events, a move widely believed to come from their rocky history. For someone who gave so much to the character, this must have been deeply painful. Fans who cheered for Vader's presence might not have known the behind-the-scenes story, that the man in the mask felt shut out and unappreciated. Still, David Prowse embraced his unique legacy. Over decades, he appeared at countless fan conventions, signing autographs and sharing stories from the set. He kept a good relationship with fans, often delighting in their love for the character he helped shape. Prowse even released his autobiography, detailing his experiences and shedding light on the complex relationship with the Star Wars universe. What does Prowse's story reveal about George Lucas? It's a clear example of how Lucas's need for perfection sometimes created emotional distance. His focus was often on the end result, the perfect shot, the flawless effect, which sometimes came at the cost of taking care of the actors who gave life to his vision. Lucas's directing style wasn't always warm or collaborative, and in Prowse's case, it led to a lasting split. Yet, in a way, the story of Prowse and Vader shows the contradiction of filmmaking. A character can become legendary, even iconic, but the people behind the mask can be overlooked, misunderstood, or conflicted. The legacy is bigger than any one person, but the individual stories add layers of depth and humanity. David Prowse's journey reminds us that even in the world of epic space movies and blockbuster films, there are very real human emotions, pride, disappointment, and strength, that shape the legacy behind the scenes. It's a testament to his dedication that despite the ups and downs, he remains an inseparable part of what makes Darth Vader so unforgettable. Next on the list, what happens when a classically trained Oscar-winning actor finds himself in a galaxy filled with robots, space battles, and dialogue that barely makes sense to him? Alec Guinness wasn't just any actor. He was a giant of British stage and screen long before he ever picked up a lightsaber. Known for his Shakespeare skills and a career full of critically acclaimed roles, Guinness brought weight and seriousness to Obi-Wan Kenobi that helped anchor the original Star Wars trilogy. But beneath his calm and composed exterior was a man who was often quietly unhappy with his involvement in the galaxy far, far away. When George Lucas cast Guinness as Obi-Wan, he was tapping into a well-respected actor with decades of experience. At the time, Star Wars was an ambitious project with uncertain prospects, and Guinness himself was initially skeptical of the film's sci-fi premise. Still, he accepted the role, and his performance became one of the defining elements of the original trilogy. However, Guinness's relationship with Lucas and the project was complicated from the start. He reportedly found much of the dialogue awkward, even laughable, calling some of it mumbo-jumbo. Lucas's script-writing style, with its space jargon and sometimes stiff lines, clashed with Guinness's classical acting background, which prized nuance and elegance in language. Guinness's dissatisfaction went beyond the dialogue. He was reportedly frustrated with the direction he was given, feeling that Lucas, especially in those early years, was more focused on the film's technical innovations and spectacle than on performances. For an actor of Guinness's level, this created tension. He once said in an interview that working on Star Wars was like making a big, expensive home movie, a statement that highlighted his mixed feelings. Interestingly, Guinness didn't want to be tied to the franchise for long. According to accounts, he suggested that his character be killed off early in the saga, to avoid the prolonged commitment and to escape the growing fame that came with the role. And indeed, Obi-Wan's death in A New Hope was a dramatic turning point. It marked Guinness's exit from the films while cementing the character's legendary status. But the fame that followed wasn't easy for Guinness to handle. He was reportedly uncomfortable with the cult status that Star Wars gave him. The attention was intense and persistent, and Guinness found it somewhat alienating compared to his previous, more serious roles. While fans adored him, Guinness felt typecast and confined by the label of Star Wars actor. Despite these reservations, Guinness's performance remains iconic. His calm wisdom, dignified presence, and understated strength gave Obi-Wan a timeless quality. His portrayal laid the foundation for all future Jedi characters and remains beloved by fans around the world. From a behind-the-scenes perspective, Guinness's story highlights the creative tensions that can arise when a classically trained actor meets a visionary director with a very different approach. Lucas's emphasis on storytelling through spectacle and technological innovation sometimes left actors feeling like cogs in a vast machine rather than collaborators. In later years, Guinness softened his stance somewhat, recognizing the cultural impact of Star Wars and the joy it brought to fans. But his initial reservations and creative frustrations remind us that even the most talented actors can struggle to adapt to the demands of blockbuster filmmaking, especially when their artistic expectations clash with the realities of a genre-defining spectacle. Ultimately, Alec Guinness's experience with Star Wars offers a fascinating glimpse into the balance between art and entertainment, tradition and innovation. His complex legacy is part of what makes the original trilogy so rich, a fusion of classical acting talent and groundbreaking cinematic ambition. Terence Stamp is one of those actors whose name commands respect, an icon of British cinema known for his intense performances and sharp wit. So, when he appeared in Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace as Chancellor Valorum, expectations were high. But Stamp's experience working with George Lucas was, to put it mildly, underwhelming. Unlike the original trilogy, which was mostly practical effects, and actors working closely together, the prequel era brought a much heavier reliance on CGI and digital effects. For an actor like Stamp, who thrived on interaction and organic performance, this created a disconnect. His role as Chancellor Valorum was relatively small but crucial, representing the waning political power before Palpatine's rise. Yet, Stamp quickly grew frustrated with the process. He was blunt in his assessment of Lucas's directing style, famously calling Lucas not a director of actors. For Stamp, Lucas didn't provide the kind of guidance and creative collaboration actors often need to deliver their best performances. Instead, Lucas was more focused on the technical and visual aspects of the film, leaving actors feeling somewhat adrift. Stamp described the experience as boring and disappointing, emphasizing that the environment was far from the dynamic, actor-driven sets he was used to. With much of the film relying on green screens and digital environments, the emotional and physical connection between actors was limited. This kind of filmmaking demanded a different kind of patience and imagination, qualities that not every actor enjoys in equal measure. His critique wasn't just about Lucas's direction, but also about the broader creative choices. Stamp was outspoken about the script and dialogue, which many fans and critics also found lacking in depth compared to the original trilogy. For an actor known for roles in classic films like The Collector and Superman, Stamp's disappointment was rooted in a longing for more meaningful storytelling and character development. Despite the brevity of his role, Stamp's candid reflections on his time with Lucas reveal a deeper truth about the challenges of working on large-scale, effects-driven blockbusters. The demands of such productions often clash with the traditional craft of acting, leaving some performers frustrated by the lack of personal creative input. Stamp's comments add to the narrative that Lucas's approach to filmmaking was heavily visionary and technical, but sometimes at the expense of actor engagement. While the director's priorities brought revolutionary visuals and epic scope, they could make the actor's experience feel secondary. Ultimately, Terence Stamp's experience is a reminder that even celebrated actors aren't immune to creative clashes, especially when the director's focus and style don't align with their own working methods. It's a small but telling episode in the ongoing story of George Lucas and his complex relationships with the actors who brought his world to life. Not all of Lucas's most pivotal clashes happened in front of the camera. Some of the deepest creative divides took place behind it. This time, it's one of the producers on set. When you think about the magic of the original Star Wars trilogy, it's easy to focus on George Lucas as the visionary genius. But behind the scenes, there was another key player whose influence shaped the films. Gary Kurtz, the producer who worked closely with Lucas on Star Wars, 1977, and The Empire Strikes Back, 1980. Their partnership was vital to bringing the galaxy far, far away to life. But it wasn't without its tensions and creative disagreements. Gary Kurtz was a seasoned producer with a clear vision of what Star Wars could be, a story that balanced character-driven drama with groundbreaking effects. He was more cautious than Lucas when it came to merchandising and the commercial aspects, preferring to keep the storytelling at the core rather than turning the franchise into a marketing machine. This difference in priorities would eventually create a serious rift between the two. During the making of The Empire Strikes Back, their collaboration began to fray. Lucas was increasingly interested in expanding the franchise's commercial potential. Toys, merchandise, spin-offs, while Kurtz worried this focus could dilute the storytelling. Kurtz favored a grittier, more grounded approach, emphasizing emotional complexity and thematic depth. Lucas, meanwhile, was charting a path toward a blockbuster empire, willing to prioritize spectacle and broad appeal. This clash came to a head after The Empire Strikes Back, when Kurtz was not brought back as producer for Return of the Jedi. It was a clear sign that Lucas was moving in a different direction, one that left Kurtz's more reserved sensibilities behind. The two men parted ways, with Kurtz quietly stepping back from the franchise. Kurtz later reflected on his experience, expressing disappointment in how the series evolved, particularly Lucas's growing focus on merchandising and spectacle over storytelling. He believed the original film's heart and soul were rooted in strong characters and meaningful arcs, something he feared was being lost in the drive for commercial success. Their split highlights an important aspect of Lucas's career: his evolution from filmmaker to franchise mogul. While Lucas's vision created an unprecedented cultural phenomenon, it also revealed tensions between creative purity and commercial ambition. Kurtz's story reminds us that even in the midst of groundbreaking success, creative partnerships can fracture under the weight of differing philosophies. Interestingly, Kurtz continued to produce and direct other projects, but remained somewhat in the shadow of the Star Wars empire. His quieter approach contrasts sharply with Lucas's public profile, but his contributions to the first two films were crucial. His balance of storytelling and production expertise helped turn Lucas's ideas into cinematic reality. In retrospect, the Kurtz-Lucas split serves as a cautionary tale about the costs of creative control and the pressures of blockbuster filmmaking. It's a reminder that even the most successful collaborations can falter when visions diverge. If there's one actor who truly embodies perseverance in the Star Wars universe, it's Anthony Daniels. As the man behind the gold-plated protocol droid C-3PO, Daniels is the only actor to have appeared in every single main saga film, a testament not only to his dedication but also to his complex, sometimes fraught relationship with George Lucas. Daniels' journey with Star Wars began when he auditioned for what he thought was a small role. Little did he know he'd be locked inside a metal suit for hours on end, navigating a galaxy filled with strange creatures and intense fan devotion. From the start, Daniels brought a certain warmth and humanity to C-3PO, turning what could have been a robotic, forgettable character into a fan favorite. But working with Lucas wasn't always smooth sailing. Daniels has often spoken candidly about how Lucas's intense focus on technology and effects sometimes overshadowed the actors. While Lucas was pushing the boundaries of special effects and storytelling innovation, actors like Daniels sometimes felt like secondary players, constrained by heavy costumes and limited direction. Daniels recalled long days on set, stuck inside a cumbersome suit that limited his movement and visibility. There were moments when he felt more like a prop than a performer, and the lack of actor-focused direction could be frustrating. Yet Daniels's professionalism and good humor helped him endure these challenges, turning C-3PO's nervous energy into a beloved character trait. Interestingly, Daniels also developed a respectful but honest perspective on Lucas's leadership. He admired Lucas's vision and pioneering spirit but wasn't shy about pointing out the difficulties that came with it. For instance, he noted that Lucas was less hands-on with actors than many directors tend to be, which sometimes left actors to find their own way through scenes. Despite these challenges, Daniels' loyalty to the franchise and his character never wavered. His dedication helped anchor the films, providing continuity and comic relief throughout the saga's many twists and turns. Over time, Daniels became something of an ambassador for Star Wars, embracing the fandom with warmth and humor. His relationship with Lucas reflects the delicate balance between visionary direction and the actor's craft. Daniels' story shows that while Lucas's strengths were in innovation and big-picture storytelling, the actors often had to bring their own creativity and patience to the table to fill in the gaps. In many ways, Daniels' journey is a story of resilience, of finding ways to shine despite limitations, and forging a path through a fast-moving, technology-driven filmmaking process. His unique perspective adds a valuable layer to understanding how Lucas's approach shaped the Star Wars legacy, for better and sometimes for worse. Some relationships started with respect but slowly unraveled under the weight of fame, pressure, and creative friction, none more famously than George Lucas and Harrison Ford. People think of Star Wars and Han Solo immediately comes to mind. The charming rogue, the quick-witted smuggler who stole scenes and hearts alike. And behind that swaggering smile was Harrison Ford, the actor who turned Han Solo into one of the most beloved characters in cinematic history. But as iconic as Ford's role became, his relationship with George Lucas was surprisingly complicated and sometimes tense. Before Star Wars, Harrison Ford was a working actor with a string of small roles, doing carpentry on the side to make ends meet. It was during the filming of American Graffiti, Lucas's earlier coming-of-age hit, that Ford first met Lucas, and the director later tapped him to read lines during Star Wars auditions. Though Ford wasn't originally cast as Han Solo, Lucas's decision to bring him on was a turning point. Ford's portrayal of Han Solo was a revelation. He brought charisma, humor, and a grounded realism that made Solo feel like a fully fleshed-out character amid the epic space fantasy. But behind the scenes, Ford's experience was not without friction. He often found Lucas's directing style frustrating, describing it as somewhat detached and overly focused on the technical side rather than actors' performances. Lucas was famously focused on the broader vision, the visual effects, the storyboarding, the tight control over the saga's sprawling narrative. For actors like Ford, who valued character development and spontaneous creativity, this sometimes led to clashes. Ford liked to inject humor and improvisation into his scenes, but Lucas preferred sticking closely to the script and planned shots. One of the most famous examples of this was Ford's now legendary line, "I know," in response to Leia's, "I love you," in The Empire Strikes Back. That iconic moment was an improvisation. Ford felt the scripted reply was too stiff. Lucas liked the change, but it exemplified the kind of push and pull between actor and director. Another source of tension was Ford's frustration with the weight of fame and typecasting. After the success of Star Wars and later the Indiana Jones franchise, also Lucas associated through Steven Spielberg, Ford found himself pigeonholed. He reportedly grew tired of being defined by his roles in Lucas's creations and was cautious about continuing in the Star Wars universe beyond the original trilogy. Ford's relationship with Lucas was also complicated by their differing personalities. Lucas was introspective and intensely focused on his creative vision, while Ford was more laid-back and pragmatic. This difference sometimes led to miscommunications and a lack of warmth on set. Despite these challenges, Ford respected Lucas's visionary mind and acknowledged the director's role in creating a cultural phenomenon. He appreciated the technical breakthroughs and storytelling ambition, even if he occasionally chafed at the constraints placed on actors. Over the years, Ford has been candid about both the magic and the frustrations of working with Lucas. His story adds nuance to the image of Lucas as a demanding visionary, showing that even the biggest stars sometimes struggled to find their place within the galaxy Lucas built. In the end, Harrison Ford's journey with George Lucas and Star Wars is a story of collaboration and compromise. It's about balancing creative impulses with the demands of a blockbuster production, and how even legendary partnerships can be marked by friction beneath the surface. But thanks to that tension, Han Solo remains one of cinema's most memorable and beloved characters, a testament to Ford's talent and resilience in navigating the unique world Lucas created. George Lucas is a name that resonates far beyond Hollywood. He's not just a filmmaker, he's a cultural architect who redefined how stories are told on the big screen. From his humble beginnings in Modesto, California, to becoming the mastermind behind Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Lucas's journey is a tale of creativity, innovation, and relentless ambition. Born in 1944, Lucas grew up fascinated by cars, adventure stories, and movies. He was the kind of kid who spent hours tinkering, imagining worlds beyond the ordinary. This passion led him to film school at the University of Southern California, where he honed his craft and began experimenting with new ways of telling stories. Early on, Lucas showed a deep interest in technology and visual effects, which would come to define his career. His first major success was American Graffiti, 1973, a nostalgic coming-of-age film that captured the spirit of youth in America. But it was Star Wars, 1977, that truly launched him into the stratosphere of filmmaking legend. Star Wars wasn't just a movie, it was a phenomenon. Lucas created a universe rich with mythology, memorable characters, and groundbreaking effects. Yet, Lucas's vision extended beyond just making a film. He wanted to revolutionize the industry. He pioneered the use of special effects technology, sound design innovations like THX, and pushed for digital editing and projection years before they became standard. This technological obsession was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it propelled Star Wars and his other projects into uncharted territory, forever changing cinema. On the other, it sometimes meant Lucas's focus was more on the machine, the cameras, effects, and merchandising, than on the human element, especially the actors. This approach contributed to the often rocky relationships he had with his cast, who sometimes felt sidelined or constrained. Lucas's perfectionism and desire for control meant he was deeply involved in every aspect of production, from storyboarding to sound mixing. He was a visionary but also a demanding director who wasn't afraid to make tough decisions or overhaul scenes multiple times to get everything exactly right. This relentless drive was key to the franchise's success, but could make working with him challenging. Over the years, Lucas's role evolved from filmmaker to franchise mogul. He recognized early on the power of merchandising and expanded Star Wars into an empire of toys, books, TV shows, and more. This commercial savvy ensured that Star Wars became a cultural and economic powerhouse, but sometimes fueled criticism that the storytelling took a backseat to business. Despite the controversies, Lucas's legacy is undeniable. He changed the way stories are told and marketed, inspiring generations of filmmakers and fans. His creation of Star Wars sparked a devoted global community and shifted Hollywood's focus towards blockbuster franchises with massive fan engagement. In 2012, Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney, handing over the reins of the Star Wars universe to a new generation. This move marked a turning point. Lucas stepped back from active filmmaking but left behind a franchise that continues to thrive. While fans debate the new directions taken, they all owe a debt to Lucas's original vision. Beyond Star Wars, Lucas's influence is seen in how films use technology to create immersive experiences. His contributions to sound design, visual effects, and digital editing paved the way for today's cinematic spectacles. He also helped democratize filmmaking tools, making it easier for others to bring their visions to life. Lucas's personal life is quieter than his public persona. He's known for being private, focused intensely on his projects, and later, philanthropy. He's invested in education and preserving film history, showing a side committed to nurturing future creators. In the end, George Lucas is a complex figure, a visionary who changed cinema forever, sometimes at the cost of personal relationships and traditional filmmaking norms. His story is one of passion, innovation, and the challenges that come with shaping a universe that captured the imaginations of millions. Lucas's relationships with his actors were often marked by creative tension, a byproduct of his relentless focus on vision over performance. While some, like Harrison Ford and Alec Guinness, clashed with his directing style, Others respected the legacy he built, despite personal frustrations. Lucas wasn't known for warmth or collaboration, but for building worlds no one else could. Is he loved or hated? The truth lies somewhere in between. He may not have been every actor's favorite director, but his genius is undeniable, and the galaxy he created continues to inspire, challenge, and captivate generations. Are you a fan, or have you seen this Hollywood dynamic too? Drop your comments below, leave a thumbs up if you like the video, and subscribe to our channel for more.